Let's go.
Let us know, start the cheering. Let's have fun and start connecting. Your worries soon you'll be forgetting. 'Cause you are here with us now, we are all friends. Sit back and relax, we can begin. Ready or not, here we go. We're all here, so let's start the show. This is the place to be, right here with you and me. Let's meet somebody new. Come and be inspired. The only thing required is to learn and have fun too. Experiment with us, in you we can trust. To live that streaming life, there's no need to be scared as long as you're prepared. Start the stream and feel alive. Online streaming is a journey. With every step we're always learning. So come with us, let's support each other. We can do everything all together. Ready or not, here we go. We're all here, so let's start the show. This is the place to be, right here with you and me. Let's meet somebody new. Come and be inspired. The only thing required is to learn and have fun too. Experiment with us, in you we can trust. To live that streaming life, there's no need to be scared as long as you're prepared. Start the stream and feel alive. Your adventure is starting. Nothing compares to streaming. This is the place to be, right here with you and me. Let's meet somebody new. Come and be inspired. The only thing required is to learn and have fun too. Experiment with us, in you we can trust. To live that streaming life, there's no need to be scared as long as you're prepared. Start the stream and feel alive.
Hello and welcome everyone. Today we have here, of course, Lala. Hello, we have Sammy, the superstar. Kelly is in the house, so the party can get started. Keith is here. Hi, Keith. Janet is here. And our tech troublemaker, Roy, is here. Hello, hello, hello. And Win for the first time live in the stream. Welcome, Win. You get confetti for being here the first time. And we have Ellie. Hello, hello, hello. And so many chats, but I think I got everyone. So let's get this thing started. Stan is a cartoonist, writer, and game designer. He spent the bulk of his professional time doing jobs in the tabletop hobby game industry. Say that 3 times loud with me. Fast. He's done various bits of game design, fiction, and humorous illustrations for Dungeons & Dragons, managed teams for TSR, Wizard of the Coast, Upper Deck Entertainment, and the US Census Bureau. and he's written the English adaptation scripts for more than 200 volumes of manga for Viz Media. But when all is said and done, there's nothing he likes better than cartooning, which he's been doing as a freelancer since 1982. And today we'll talk with him about his story. And hi, Stan. So nice to have you here.
Hey, thank you for having me. That guy you were talking about sounds real interesting. I'd like to meet him.
Yeah, let's try and find him. Yeah, Kelly says it right. Stan is so insanely talented, and you can go back to the thumbnail to see some of the things. His style, to see his style. So I want to start way back. Do you remember when the first time in your life you drew something?
Oh boy, I mean, like most people, I started drawing as a kid. I have memories from drawing from a very young age, just because. So my favorite early life memory, I, like so many people do, I started by copying the comics that I liked and the pictures that I liked, and I started looking around for new things to draw, and I found a book on my parents' shelves. Actually, you know what? I have a copy of it. I actually went and found a copy, so I'm going to pull it out here so I can show it to you in a minute. It's a book. It's a book for grown-ups. It's a book of cartoons for grown-ups. I mean, nothing in here is particularly bad. In fact, I'm not going to open it because there are some cartoon nudity, but it's jokes about a brothel. But it's drawn by Sergio Aragonés, a guy who's very famous for doing stuff for Mad Magazine and for Gru the Wanderer as a comic he's been doing for the past 30 years. He's, I mean, one of the most famous cartoonists in the world. This was one of his early books, and I didn't know any of this. I was like 4 years old. I just knew that his style was simple, and I thought it was fun, so I drew it, and I copied it. And my mother saw what I was drawing. I happened to pick a picture of a woman semi-clothed. I mean, it just looked like a bathing suit to me. But I drew it, and she said, "Where did you get that?" I said, "Got it off the shelf." And she said, "Oh, okay. That's very good." And, some days later, I decided I wanted to draw something from that book again, and I went looking for it, and I couldn't find that book anywhere. It was gone.
Miraculously disappeared.
That's my mother. I said, "Hey, where's that little red book?" And she said, "What little red book? I don't remember us having it."
There never was a little red book.
I never remember it. It was gone. And for years, I had that memory, but the book really was, they must have thrown it out. And so I couldn't find it. It's like, this is not the kind of thing that's in everybody's library.
Sure.
So it took me 20 or 30 years before I could find out, and the advent of the internet, that I could look this thing up, find out what it was, and get myself a copy of it to own.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess it's my first run-in with one of my early memories of drawing and running into a tough editor.
Yeah, and that was the rest of your life from then on.
From there on, it's all been the same.
And Janet is saying, I so admire people that can draw paint. Can everyone draw, or?
I think that everyone can draw. Over the years, I've done several different seminar things at libraries about, you can draw. The question is, it is kind of on you to decide that if it's not this good, then it's not drawing. Right? I always, the theme of my conversations, my talks, is always, if you draw something and people recognize it, then you've done a good job drawing it. Right? It doesn't matter if it looks realistic. Doesn't matter if it looks as good as what you're seeing in a magazine or on a newspaper illustration or on a TV animation, if you can put a circle with a couple of dots and a couple of floppy things up here, and people look at it and go, "Oh, that's a dog," you did a good job of drawing a dog. And and if you start with that and you keep practicing, you will keep getting better. But people very often get it in their head that they want to draw like a particular other artist, and or at an advanced level, not just a recognizable dog, but a dog in a very specific position. And those are more difficult. You have to practice before you can do that really well. But uh, you can get it. Is like I say, if you put it down and people recognize it, then you did a good drawing,
Yeah. So
and you can draw.
yeah. So Janet already said stick people, and
Stick
Roy
people.
saying he makes amazing stick people. They almost look like real sticks.
I know at least 3 different cartoonists who have careers, and some large percentage of what they do are cartoons with stick people, because a cartoon is about getting an idea across,
Yeah.
and you have a stick person, and you have a little box, and people recognize that as a desk, and he picks up a phone, and you write a funny caption underneath. You've just done a terrific cartoon.
Yeah, and I think it's the same with every creative thing, even doing YouTube and live streams. You have to start somewhere, and you will probably not be really good at the starting. But if you don't do that, then how will you get better?
Yeah. Yes, and like with live streaming, anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. It's just you got to get past the fear to hit the go live button. But then once it's going live, you're doing it, whether you like it or not.
Exactly. And Vin is saying she got her first bad mark in school in art, and that either discouraged her of drawing in the future. Yeah.
I hate, particularly for young children. I hate art that gives them grades based on how proficient they are, rather than how creative they are. How much they, if you try in art, every artist will tell you that you're always trying something new, and if you're not failing at some things, you're really not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
So if the kids are out there trying, particularly young kids, if you give them an assignment and they try to do something and it doesn't pan out, don't give them a bad grade for that. Give them encouragement for trying, and saying, next time you do it, it'll be better. And that look at what you did do.
Absolutely. And so, but you were not discouraged. You found the fun in that. So
Yeah. Well, I couldn't find the red book, but I still knew I made a nice drawing.
yeah, and so
Yeah.
so you just keep doing it since then, or
Yeah. So I as a student, I have very good listening. My memory is tied to listening, so I'm very bad at taking notes. But if I pay attention, it's getting less true as I get older. But certainly, all throughout my educational career, if I was listening intently, I would remember what I got. And so my notebooks were just filled with drawings. My teachers hated it. My notebooks were just drawing, and sometimes they wrote something important on the board. I'd write the word down so I could remember what it was, or little notes of things I knew were technical and I needed to remember. But then the rest of it, I was just paying attention to what they were saying. I had several teachers who tried to catch me on that, say, well, what were we just discussing? And I was always able to tell them not only what we had been discussing, but make a pretty good stab at what was coming next, because I wasn't just listening, I was processing the information and understanding.
yeah. So
So that
drawing
gave me
helped you.
time to practice.
So,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
And weirdly, looking at the drawings helped me remember what I had
Yeah.
been listening to. So
Yeah,
I could
that's genius.
actually study from that. No one else could.
Sure.
sometimes in college when people would ask me if they could borrow, I missed the lecture on Wednesday. Can I borrow your notebook? I'm like,
Yeah, please go
you
ahead.
can, but you want to.
Okay. Yeah, and so then how did you figure out, oh, I could really do something with my passion?
It you know it was weird. I knew that I did stuff well, but I didn't really have an outlet. In 1982, um, I was big into playing tennis. I was a competitive tennis player when I was a junior, and I played at a club that had a magazine, a nationally published magazine, and I did a little drawing of. I had a couple little drawings of Darth Vader playing tennis, and they said, "Hey, if you do those on a clean piece of paper, we'll publish them." And so my first publication was in a national magazine. I had a whole page of my cartoons. What if Darth Vader played tennis? And then that made me feel pretty good. I even got a little money for that. And from there, when I went away to college, I did comics for one of the campus newspapers. I became an editor on one of the smaller residential college newspapers, and it was also the time that my interest in gaming, in role playing games, boomed, and there's a big need in those for drawings of the things that are described. Um, the challenge for me is that my style is very cartoony, which is not bad. I don't see any problem with that. But the publishers uh, of role playing games always have had a very strong bias towards realistic drawings. So I didn't get a lot of work from that, but everyone I knew, everyone I played with wanted me to draw their characters, and I did drawings of everyone's characters and drawings of what happened in the games, and I would show it to people, and they laughed, they loved it. Uh, I had friends that went to work for a couple of publishers, and we would play with them and game with them, and they would love it too, but they didn't want to publish it.
Okay.
And I had a really amazing opportunity that I didn't take, and I'm not sorry I didn't take it, but it's one of those points in your life you look back on and go, oh, I wonder if I had done this differently, my life would have been completely different. Like I said, been doing cartoons for the college newspaper, and a friend of my father's knew someone who was a professional cartoonist and thought that my style was very well suited towards newspaper style daily strips and offered to mentor me to develop into that. And I decided that I didn't want to do that. And so, I was very polite to him, and he's a very nice gentleman, helped me out. It made introductions for me. But in the end, 30 years later, I come back to the point where now I'm like, oh, you know what? I would love to do that. I had the chance. Oh, well. But I've done so many other things I did want to do that I don't have a minute of regret over it.
Okay, but back then, what made you decide you didn't want to do that?
When you're doing a newspaper strip, you've got to come up with 7 jokes a day, and I was doing this strip for the college newspaper where I had to do 2 a week, and I would get around deadline, like, oh my god, I've got to think of something. I just did not enjoy the process of making that kind of humor. What I didn't really think enough about was what I enjoyed was making single panel comics, like the kind that you see in the New Yorker or other magazines, and even some of the newspaper strips now are single panel cartoons. But at that time, there really weren't any. Um, so yeah, so I decided that I wanted my drawing to. I had so much fun doing it. I didn't want to go on and make a job of it in a way that was stressful and that I didn't like. So that's why I decided not to do it.
You were
Um,
afraid that it would take away your passion, or
yeah, well, I was afraid that um, I would get to the point where I didn't like drawing.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
and I would no longer have this thing that was so much fun for me. Um, I think looking back on it, that wouldn't have been true, but it seemed that way at the time.
Yeah, it's
And
just
so
wasn't the right time for you then. Okay,
yeah.
and what did you do instead then?
So instead, well, I bummed around for a couple of years, and then I wound up going to Japan and teaching English in Japan, uh, and I did that for about 5 years. And while I was there, I did some cartooning for some English language magazines in Japan. I also was one of the people that formed a network for English speaking gamers, people who like to play board games and role playing games in Japan, so that they could find each other and get in contact and game. And um, one of the things that and I've done a lot of things I'm lucky to have done and proud to have been a part of. But I think one of the things I'm most proud to have been a part of is starting that organization, because it's still around today. I left Japan 30 years ago almost, and the organization is still there and has grown and is doing great. So I look at that as one of one of my big gifts back to the things I love.
That's fantastic. And
Yeah.
so at that time in Japan, you were earning your living with teaching English,
Yes.
and drawing and role play were just for fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I got paid for the drawings. The role playing thing was just for fun, but it
Mm.
was it was very much for me, because I got to play. If I didn't make that organization, I wouldn't have had anyone to play games with. I couldn't. I had no one, and so I started this. In fact, I made this organization up because there was free personal ads back before the internet. Newspapers used to have personal ads sections that were where you'd put little notices of interesting things that were going on. So I created this organization, and I made up a name for it, and I said, "This is the International Gaming Group of Japan. All are welcome. If you would like uh, our list of other members, contact me here." And suddenly I had people calling me and telling me, taking down their names and what games they like to play, and I published a network list once or twice a year, and every time I got someone who liked something that I liked, I said, "Hey, I like that too. We should game sometime." And suddenly, I made a lot of good friends. In fact, my editor at Viz is someone I met through that group. He was, and he became the president of the group after I left. Um, so lifelong lifelong friendships built through gaming
Yeah, can
and flying.
imagine. Okay, and Kelly is asking when you started, how old you were when you started your career as professional artist. So in Japan, your main income was teaching, and then
Yeah,
it
yeah.
started
So
shifting.
yeah, art cartooning has always been an add-on. I've never managed to successfully make that my main
Okay.
focus. And that's really what I'm working on now. I've gotten to
Oh,
this point
okay.
in my life. I'm like, you know what? I want to switch this from being a side thing to being the main thing. but it started when I was 18 when those first cartoons got published. And I got paid for it. And ever since then, every year I have made some amount of money off cartooning. Sometimes it's been a fair amount. Sometimes it's been just a little bit here or there. Um, I've let's say in Japan, uh, I made friends with an editor of a computer magazine that published quarterly, I think. So I did one or two cartoons for each magazine. So there's a couple of times a year. In the meanwhile, I did a lot of illustration for my game organization. I created a newsletter, so I was doing all the layout and illustration on that, and I got a couple of private commissions. When I came back to the U.S., it was to work. I'd acquired a job in gaming, in hobby gaming. I worked for a company called West End Games, and mostly I was doing layout and graphic art. Uh, but that was just kind of a landing spot, and I moved over quickly into the editorial departments and doing writing. But in the meanwhile, whenever something would come up that had needed a humorous drawing, which, as I say, wasn't that often because they took and take their art uh, more seriously than makes me happy. Style wise, I'm happy they take it seriously, but there was very rarely room for a humorous illustration. But when there was, uh, I was sitting right there, and I made more connections. I switched companies, went to another company, started doing some comics for they had magazines, Dragon magazine and Dungeon magazine, the official Dungeons and Dragons publications. And so I had a comic strip that ran in there for a number of years, and I did private commissions, and occasionally I'd get asked to do a job for another project that needed one funny illustration here or there, and yes, so like that. Over the years, I found different places to do the work, to be a side hustle on top of my mostly writing and editing, and then I got into personnel management as a creative director for a number of companies, and then I didn't get to do anything fun.
Okay, yeah, because I was just thinking. So you really shifted to your passion. You had the opportunity to draw some of the things, and you actually worked in the business of the D&D
Yeah.
that you so love to play, and so and then someone came and say, "Oh, we need someone who can manage those other artists," and that's something for you, or
Well, I mean, so like so many businesses, that people tend to get promoted from what they're good at to being in charge of people who are what they're good at. And some people excel at that. I turned out to be a good manager. Um, though there was really no reason to believe that, but that's where the promotion went. So I was doing well. I was a good writer. I was a good game designer, and we needed someone to be in the person who had been in charge of our team moved on, and they offered me that job, and it turned out I was good at it. So suddenly all the writing kind of got pushed aside, and I was in charge of the people who were writing.
okay, and this time around, you weren't afraid like back in as a young man. You said, "Okay, let's try this."
Yeah, well, also the money helped at that point. I gotta be honest.
Okay.
You know what? I would say if there's one thing about my entire career uh, that I would change if I had it all to do again, is that I've been very I've just kind of gone where the winds blew me. An opportunity came up and I followed it over there, and then this event followed it over there. But it means that the things that I really wanted to do, you got to push for those, right? You've got to make effort. Got to go and be proactive to get a lot of those. So at least the things that I want to do, they're not the kinds of things that land in your lap very often. Or if they do it like it has been for me every once in a while. Where the wind took me has been terrific. But like I say, I get to this point in my career and I think, well, yeah, but when my last contract ended as a producer for Dungeons and Dragons, I was back at Wizards of the Coast now as a contract producer for a year and a half. And when that ended, I realized, I don't want to do more producing. I want to do more writing. I want to get back to doing the reason I started this was that I like doing the thing. So, and the thing when it boils down to it, that I want to do most is the cartooning.
Yeah, and so you started working as a freelancer, 1982.
Yeah. Yep. I say all of my since no one ever wanted me to be on staff as an artist, all of my cartooning has always been freelance. A lot of the game companies didn't pay well.
Okay.
And there's for good and bad reasons. But they knew that they needed people on staff and that what they could afford to pay as salary was not always enough. So they made it possible for you to do freelance work. So during the day, you do what they're paying you to do. And at night, you have a contract to do that, often for them, but sometimes for other companies too.
Okay.
And so for a long time, about a quarter to half of my income was coming from doing freelance, even while I was on staff.
Okay.
They say that changed when I got into management. They pay managers much better than they pay the creator.
Yeah. Okay.
Go figure.
Yeah. And so the freelancing, that was in the evening and at night
And the weekends, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But thankfully, it was something I loved doing.
Okay.
So, it's always great when what you have to do, when you come home, you have to do it. It's like, well, I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I was just talking with a friend of mine who worked at TSR. TSR is a company that developed Dungeons and Dragons originally. And I worked there for the last couple of years before the company was sold. So I was talking to one of my friends who worked there in the early years, and he was saying that the company got in trouble with the State Department of Labor because they were paying all of their employees as hourly employees. They had to come in and punch a time clock, but in order to do the job well, it needed more time than there was in an 8-hour day, and the company wasn't going to pay overtime. So they would punch in and punch out at 5 o'clock and then keep working until, the evenings and weekends. They would just keep working because they loved the product too, and they wanted it to be great. And someone who went to the state and said, "Hey, these people are doing that," and started the state Department of Labor came and started asking questions. And my friend was telling me about the story about when they came and asked him. He said his answer to them was like, "Oh yeah, they do that, but I want to do it. They're not making me. I want to do that. I want to work more."
Okay.
And the state official said, "Yeah, that doesn't matter. That's great for you. Very happy for you, but the company can't do that."
Yeah, of course.
And that's when the positions stopped being hourly and started being salaried.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and they could have hired more people
Yeah.
from the start, and then it would have been possible to do it right.
But I mean, having done publishing myself, having done even small press publishing, and being involved in the management side, I know how little how hard it is to get the revenue, right? I know
Okay.
the companies were not pulling in reams of money and then refusing to share it with the writers, and they could have paid the managers less, but the managers weren't getting like today's ridiculous, 180 times what the workers are making. Fact of the matter is, it's a small publishing. What they did was put on the front of being big publishing,
Okay.
and so, and they wanted to say that, wanted to look like they belonged on the shelf with stuff that was coming from big publishers, and they did it, and we did a great job of doing that. But that meant that a lot of people vastly overestimated how much money was getting pulled in.
Yeah, sure.
Things have changed these days. The people like at the big companies, at the couple of big companies, but anything that's not one of the 2 or 3 biggest game companies, they are still the same thing. They're working in their garage or their basement, even metaphorically, and they're making that kind of money, but they're putting up a front of being. They want to look as good as the big guys.
Yeah, sure.
It's tough. It's tough. They just people still they vastly overestimate how much sales a small company makes, and they vastly underestimate how many sales the big company makes. It's a weird dichotomy.
Okay, I see. Yeah, and so you said you're now in a point in your life where you say, okay, cartooning is my thing, and let's really pursue that.
Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one part of that is you decided to make content on Instagram and YouTube.
Mm.
Could you tell me a bit about
Yes.
that?
So I had been doing kind of fun illustration for myself here and there, but I'd been putting some of it on my website, which right now is in shambles, so we don't talk about that. But the internet changed in the last 15 years. It used to be that everyone wanted to go to your website, but these days you've got to bring your work to where people are. They are not going to come to you the way they used to. There's a lot of different groups that from what's usually called the web comics community, where everyone used to have their own site, and now there are these aggregator sites that you go to, Webtoons and some of the others that people want to consume all of their cartoons in the same place and not have to remember to go to a different site each day, or 15 different sites if they follow different comics, or go to their Instagram feed. So I started putting my stuff up on Facebook and Instagram, and I started doing video. So when I was younger, I was really very, very nervous about public speaking. But it turns out that I was making myself nervous, because whenever I did it, I loved it. And it was actually the teaching in Japan, where not only did I have to teach and talk in front of a class, I did a lot of. Um, I would get invited to talk to groups in the area as the interesting foreign person who they could get to come in and talk about life in America, or my life is drawing, or my writing. At that point, I'd published a few short stories, um, so I would get invited to do that, and uh, and through the Japanese love of karaoke, I learned that I'm a pretty good singer, and so I got invited to be a singer with a band. And so I learned that I'm a big ham. I like being in front of people, and so the advent of YouTube and of live streaming beyond that, was a great place for me to say that I can go and do this thing. It plays well to my strengths. I'm a very good storyteller, uh, though not always in an interview. Sometimes I get too many thoughts at the same time. But
Yeah.
I'm a good storyteller, and so I used to do go and compete in storytelling competitions and open mics and things like that. So this is a great medium for someone who likes to do that kind of thing, and I can work in my cartooning with it. For example, I have the new show that I've started doing recently, called Random Encounters Sketch Challenge, which is kind of taking an idea from gaming in D&D and games like that. You very often will have these numerical charts with options of things that will happen, and you don't know what will happen. You roll the dice to decide what is going to happen. So on the show, I have these kinds of numerical charts. One with a chart of people or creatures or subjects, and one a chart of events or activities. And so I'll roll the dice on screen. I roll the dice, and it comes up 3, and 3 is an alligator. So I'm going to draw an alligator, and then I roll the dice over here, and it says uh, riding a bicycle. So I sit and hold my the screen from my drawing tablet up and put that on screen. And while everyone's watching, I talk to the audience and answer questions and draw the alligator riding the bicycle, hopefully in an entertaining way. Haven't actually drawn an alligator riding a bicycle, but that does sound like fun. Maybe that'll happen tonight.
Yeah, you drew a vampire driving a unicycle, so
Vampire on a unicycle.
yeah.
Happened on one of the shows. I did a show last week that, because it was May 4th, I did a show that was all Star Wars themed. So they were all Darth Vader on a trampoline,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Ewok on Broadway.
Yeah, and that's really fun to watch, and I think it's really awesome how you can draw and talk with the audience at the same time. That is,
Yeah, it's that's a talent that turns out to be. I don't think much about it. I just do it.
okay.
Turns out that other people tell me that that's not so easy to do.
Yeah, I think practice is probably one of the keys there.
Yeah.
And Ellie is asking, when's your next show?
My next show is tonight.
Tonight?
Tonight at 6 p.m. 6 p.m. Pacific time. So in about 4 hours.
Okay, and the link to the YouTube channel is here on screen and down below in the comments. So
Like you're a professional.
yeah, it's just pressing buttons. and so, and
Well, listen, I've been that side, and I know that it's harder than you make it look. You make it look easy.
yeah, you make drawing look easy, and I Yeah, so it's always
Fair.
practice. But yeah, the internet and the possibilities today is probably a big change is the democratization of content. So you always had to find someone who wants to publish your work, and now you just can put it out there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can the key you can put it out there, but if you want to get paid for it, you've still got to find some way to get someone to publish it or some other way to monetize it.
Yeah.
And I've got a Patreon that I run. Um, it's it's small and growing. Hopefully, as I do more of these, maybe more people will come in and be interested
Yeah,
in
and
that.
the Patreon should also be in the description. Do people get a bonus content in the Patreon?
So in the Patreon, one of the things that everyone gets is so I do lots of drawings all over the place online. I very often will go to other people's shows, and while I'm watching them, I'll draw what's happening. And if I know them, I will send it to them so that something they say in the first 10 minutes of the show, at about near the end of the show, they've got a drawing they can put up and show, and people seem to find that entertaining too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
I think people get hired for that to put something up.
I'm trying to find people to to find some way of doing that.
It probably has to be a big show or from a company or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do things in weird places. So for everyone on my Patreon, I send them everything I've done. I collect it together and send it to them in an email, so that they don't have to looking for it. Then there are I will send PDFs. Sometimes I do. I've done basically the equivalent of children's books a couple of times, just one drawing a day over the course of a month. And so when it's done, I'll put it together into a PDF, and everyone who is there gets that. I do coloring pages. At some of the higher levels, I send I make stickers out of some of my stuff, and I don't have any of my stickers around here.
Okay.
Oh well.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to go in the Patreon to see the stickers.
Yeah. But I will, at the $10 level right now, everyone is at that level. 4 times a year, I send them a sticker. Actually, 5, because I send a Christmas sticker to them also.
Okay.
And my goal right now is if I can get the Patreon up to 100 people, then I will change it so that the $5 people are getting stickers twice a year, and the $10 people will get it a little more often, and kind of play up from there. And it seems like, I don't know, it seems like a lot to call that a major bonus at 4 times a year.
Yeah, but it's I mean, Patreon is about you get a core community in there.
Yeah.
So Lala is saying she is joining, and Janet is saying she will go there. I will check it out as well. And Kelly wants a sticker. So yeah, the link for the Patreon should be in the description.
Callie, I'm sure has seen. I've done twice now. I've done drawings of Luria, who runs Live Streaming Pros, and sent that in. I'm sure it showed up in Callie's email somewhere. to do one to Callie, but she doesn't come on screen very often.
Yeah, and whenever you draw her, probably tomorrow the hair will be all different color, and the drawing is wrong. So yeah, can't be done. And Janet is asking about my buy me a coffee. Yeah, in theory, I still have it, but Um, I have to figure out first how I get to cash out the last round. I put that up there. Yeah, and Kelly has seen the drawings you did. Yeah.
Sorry, we can keep talking. I'm
Oh,
trying to pull
Kelly's
something up on my
already in
screen.
your Patreon. I have to wait till we end that up before I can go in there. But yeah, so that's great. We get you some people in. And Sarah is asking, how do you make stickers?
How do I make stickers? I use here. I'm gonna share a screen. You don't have to put it on if you don't. I think you have control over that, but you have the option.
Oh, I never done that. So,
ooh, there we go. So there is the Luria drawing I did a few months ago.
That's
while
fantastic.
She was in the midst of one of the live streams.
Oh, so
I love caricatures, and I'm not that great at them. That's one of those areas that I've some of my favorite artists throughout my life have been caricature artists, and let's see if I can pull a few that are. Oh, here's another. I did that for Luria for Get Well.
Oh wow.
I'm trying to get better at it. I've taken part in a few different challenges, like do a drawing a day, and they give. So there's Tina Turner from
yeah, of course.
one.
Great.
So I've looked at this as something that I am semi-professional at, but better than the average person, but not good enough that I would put myself out there as an expert at it. But I'm thinking that I'm going to start doing some live streams or video work to go along with it, because what I have gotten pretty good at is the thought process for doing the caricatures, how to look at someone's face and what you want to do and how you want to approach making a caricature. All right, so I'll stop. I'll stop bothering people.
No, it's fantastic. It's so great. I think talking about something is the one part, but when we can actually show. And how do you make that into a sticker if you drew something?
Oh yeah, so there's a company called Sticker Mule. I do all my stickers. I have done all my stickers with them. They're very high quality, and it's quite easy. And they often have specials where you can get a bunch done for an even better than usual price. Great. So, I mean, this is it. One of their promotional stickers for themselves is about the size of the ones that I do for me, also. And they started doing stickers for bumper stickers. So all of them are very high quality. They don't fade in the sun. They're tough and resistant, and quite good. Stickermule.com is there, I guess. I would love it if I could get them to pay me, but they don't. I just promote them because I like them. Here's another one of their promotional stickers. Oh, again, so here it is. Stickermule.com.
Yeah, I see. And Kelly is asking, what software do you use for your illustrations?
I do pretty much all my work these days in Procreate on an iPad.
Great. I have that, so now I only need the talent, and then I can do it too.
You know what? All you need to do is practice.
You're so right.
So for years I've been doing most of my drawings all traditional. I would do pencil drawings on paper and ink on paper, and then I would scan it and bring it in, and in Photoshop I would add colors to it. and that was working fine, but I was never fully satisfied that it was. I wasn't hitting what I wanted to hit exactly. Uh, it kept getting better, and it's not like I was unhappy, but I always felt like there was more I wanted to get out of it. And I tried doing the Wacom tablets, where you have a tablet down here and you're drawing down here, but you have to look at your screen to see what's going on. And I could never master that. I needed a touch screen, but the touch screens were far too expensive. But I've always been a Mac guy, and so I've had iPads. And when the iPad Pro came out with the Apple Pencil, I said, "Okay, I hear that this Procreate thing is pretty good." And so when I upgraded that fall, I got the Pencil and I got Procreate, and I had a cartooning project that was due in about 3 weeks. So I knew I had time. I said, you know what, I'm going to try to do it on the iPad with the Procreate, and I'll see what I learn. And I'm pretty sure that won't work out. I'll still have time to go back and do it. But it was so easy. It was so much like drawing naturally on a piece of paper. And the few technical bits were so similar to what I'd been doing with the coloring on Photoshop that I just did the assignment right there, first try. And it was good enough that I could send it in, and the client loved it, and it got used, and I haven't looked back.
Great, yeah. Yeah, and they're pretty good because it's a one-time buy if it's still the same, and they update it, and it's great. And Janet is saying we could have a practice session on someone's channel and draw together. Yeah, it could even be something. Maybe you do a draw with my patrons or something. That
yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
I'll take that one, Janet.
Yeah, or
for what it's worth.
Or when I watched your show where you are going with the dice to put together different things, I was thinking, yeah, maybe you could ask the audience something.
You know what? I didn't think about that till the end of the first episode.
Okay.
On the second episode, I mentioned it at the beginning. One of the things that I have to do, and I don't think I'll have it done for tonight, is I'm writing my kind of intro spiel. And I want to make sure that that's a big thing that I put up. I want people to, bring some paper, bring some pad or your electronic pad. Draw with it. If you like it, if you're proud, you want to share it, send it to me, and I will show it on the next episode. And we can do that, or we can make a separate show for this is what everyone else drew this week.
Yeah, and everyone can draw. Just send in your stick figures. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
That's right. Exactly.
Perfect. So yeah, we already are almost on top of the hour, and once again, Stan will be live and drawing in a few hours. It's YouTube at StanXStan, and you can find him on Instagram, StanX, and
most of the social media sites I got StanX. It's only recently someone else. I think people saw that I was grabbing it everywhere, so now it's starting to get grabbed out from under me.
Okay.
Because it's not a word, right? It's not really a name or a word that you see much of anywhere until I started using it.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's really awesome to learn about your journey with drawing, cartooning, all the things you did, and now you're saying, cartooning, it's the thing for me to do, and building that up with content creation, and yeah, it will be really interesting to see what you come up with, how it evolves, and awesome drawings. And yeah, I will go check out your Patreon. And
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for having me on. I had a great time chatting with you. It's Marcus and I just met during the Lita Challenge this year, and I quickly became a big fan. I'm so and I went back and watched a bunch of your previous shows,
Wow.
and I want to be on this show. Next thing I know, I'm invited.
Great, yeah. Thanks so much. Yeah, and so next week, I hope I don't mix it up. I think next week is Keys. Yeah, he's here in the chat. He can tell me if it's true. And if next week is Keys, then the week next to that would then be Katie. And thank you, Sarah. No one is not a fan of Marx. Okay.
No. And with good reason.
No one is for everyone, but I hope all that are here are a fan, and if not, what are you doing here? Oh, maybe you're a fan of Stan, and then it's that's totally okay too.
It's okay too.
Yeah. Okay, but that's it for today. Thank you all so very much. See you next time. Bye.